Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Royal Instinct. Today, we're going to be watching a couple of videos again. Why great men study history, and why Keir Starmer's social media campaign is cringe. And we're going to be looking at why the Diary of a CEO is so popular when it shouldn't really be as popular as it is. Okay, why are we doing this today? We are here to show the world that there is an alternative, that there is a loss of meaning in the world. We are in times of crisis. The world elites have sold us out. We are heading towards a meaningless life, a life where people are more and more depressed. And we are here gathering together to offer people an alternative. I'm here sending out a bat signal. I'm here sending out a message to the people who understand what it is that I'm trying to do. I am trying to collect 100 people to join me on a journey to become kings, to establish kingdoms, to become the new ruling elite, because the elites that we have right now, the people in charge, cannot be trusted. They cannot be they do not have the best interest for us. Okay, so instead of lamenting, instead of falling into despair, we are doing something about it. I'm here collecting people who want to join me. I want you to become a king. I want to establish my own kingdom. I want to help you establish your kingdom, and together we can become the new ruling elites. Okay, but let's jump straight into the video. Why great men study history.
Your choice of heroes is the most important decision you'll ever make. Why? Because Napoleon spent his entire life trying to be Caesar. Caesar idolized Alexander the Great, and Alexander imagined himself as the next Achilles.
And why is that important? Because most people draw inspiration from their lives, from other people, from heroes, from people that they've seen succeed in the past, and try to emulate them and try to live up to them. And it is a great strategy. Caesar tried to emulate Alexander the Great. It was his life mission. Napoleon modeled himself off Caesar and crowned himself emperor of France. Having that delusional aspect to personality, that delusional confidence, right, where the norms of reality do not hinder you in any shape, way, or form, can be a great tool to use. And I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to see yourself as a king, to behave like a king, to model yourself of a king of your choice. And in the process, you will become somebody who is in charge, somebody who is in power. You get to establish your kingdom and live life good.
This is the great man theory of history. It's a controversial idea proposed by historian Thomas Carlyle, who argued that the history of the world is but the biography of great men. Carlyle believed that history isn't shaped by the masses, but by the will of heroes, elite figures who should be followed and revered for their inherent genius. But this isn't simply a history lesson. If Carlyle is right, it means your choice of who to follow is the single most important factor in who you will become.
And instead of following somebody else, instead of putting your power into the hands of somebody else, I want you to take back control. I want you to take back power. I want you to follow yourself. Okay, I want you to establish a sense of hero worship within your own mind. Worship yourself. Be impressed by yourself. Okay, allow your destiny to be forged. Construct a story within your own mind about yourself, who you are, and allow that to become the force that takes you forward, right? You might have had times in your life where you have struggled, where you have had no meaning, where you don't know which direction to go to. What I'm saying is now is that this is the moment in your life. This is the moment, right, where you get to embark onto the hero's journey, where you get to, go forth. The moment in the film where you decide that, yeah, that this is what you're going to do, that you are going to do whatever it is in your power to go ahead, move ahead, to establish your own kingdom, to grab power for yourself, to become somebody who is seen as a king, who is worthy of power. And naturally, people will follow you because you are the only one standing who has that level of confidence to move forward.
So let's uncover the secrets of the great man theory, how you can use it to unlock your full potential, and also why you've probably never been taught it in your school's history class. So first,
Because it is a dangerous theory, right? If everybody was able to tap into their own divinity, their own royal instinct, if they were able to tap into and bring about their own methodology in order to become successful, then there'll be too many people in charge, right? And the elites do not want that. They want you to keep you small. They want you tied up in your 15-minute cities, in your bedroom. They want you connected to the metaverse, reliant on AI. They want to take away your power so that you cannot date, so that you cannot procreate, so that you are unhappy, dependent on the state, dependent on multinational companies, pumping brain rot content straight to your head, who are pumping unhealthy foods, drugs, pornography, you name it, straight into your brain in order to keep you weak, in order to keep you small, in order to keep you not a nuisance in essence, right? They want to keep you control over you so that you are easily manipulated and you get to do the bidding while they are robbing you blind.
who is the man behind this galvanizing view of history? Thomas Carlyle was a 19th century Scottish essayist, historian, and philosopher who gave a series of lectures on heroism in 1840. These lectures were later published into a book called On Heroes, Hero Worship, and the Heroic in History. One of the book's main theses was the great man theory of history. Carlyle argued that heroes shape history through both their personal attributes and divine inspiration. The world essentially turns on the ideas and decisions of elite men. Carlyle writes, "Universal history, the history of what man has accomplished in this world, is at bottom the history of the great men who have worked here. They were the leaders of men, these great ones, the modelers, patterns, and in a wide sense, creators of whatsoever the general mass of men contrive to do or to attain."
And that is something very important that I want you to remember. You might be somebody who is not in your life purpose right now. You might be somebody who is depressed, somebody who is feeling stuck, somebody who is feeling who has self-doubts about themselves, who believe that they might never get out of this situation, your situation, that your dream life is not attainable. But what I'm saying is you need to find what your life purpose is. You need to find what you are good at. And that might be a passion that you have for something, an interest that you have for something, and you need to go forth and go deeper into it. You need to become a subject matter expert in that field. You need to outwork everybody in that field, and that will be easy for you because once you are doing something that you enjoy, once you are working at something that is that you're passionate about, it becomes easy to you. It is easy for you to outwork everyone because everybody else will get tired while you are rejuvenated, while you are energized because you enjoy it, right? So because it is your life purpose, you'll be able to outpace everybody. And once you are once you establish yourself as an expert in that field, a subject matter expert, people will naturally gravitate towards you. People will naturally want to seek out your insight, seek you out as a point of authority, because why wouldn't you be the point of authority if you know most about that subject, because you managed to outwork everybody else in that field. And then from there on, it's natural that you will crown yourself as a king, that you get to establish your kingdom because you will have a following, because you will be seen as a leader. And that is what the world needs right now. We need more leaders. We need more people in charge, because the people at the top right now, the leaders that we have, the elected leaders, the multinational CEOs, the people who are in charge, the World Economic Forum, they are selling us out. They are selling us down the river. They are robbing us blind. They are trying to keep ourselves small while we have bigger ambition, while we have bigger dreams. And here at Raw Instinct, we are banding together, we are coming together, we are forming friendships, we are forming alliances to overthrow the current regime, the current governments that are in place. We are establishing our own nations, we are establishing our own kingdoms. Okay, and if that sounds good to you, if you understand what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, reach out to me. Let's see if we can work together.
The soul of the whole world's history, it may justly be considered, or the history of these. But how do these great men emerge? Where do they come from? And what makes one great in the first place? Carlyle based his theory on a couple assumptions. The first assumption is that great leaders are born, not made. Carlyle emphasized nature over nurture. Heroes inherently possess the traits that enable them to rise to the occasion and lead on instinct. Therefore, those who rise to power usually deserve to lead because of their abilities.
That is not true, because sometimes the elites that are already in power, they want to control you and keep you small and not recognize your own instincts, not recognize your own power within. They want to fill you with self-doubt and fears to keep you under their influence, under their control, under their system, where they can manage you, where they can predict you, what your outcome will be, in order to bleed you dry, to, bleed you of your time and effort and your work and money. And then once you are no more use to them, you will be discarded. And that is the situation I found myself in. I went to university, I climbed the corporate ladder, I had done what I was told, I followed society's script. And then once I got to the top, once I looked around, the only thing that was left for me is more and more hardship, more and more work, while the people in charge at the top were enjoying my efforts of my labor, and they were getting to enjoy all the fruits of it. I said to myself, fuck that, I do not want to be a part of that, which is why I left the system behind, which is why I am here building my own system, building my own network. I am creating something from scratch, something that has never been done before, never attempted. We are the first of our kind, and we will become the de facto rulers of the world. And I am here looking for the people, the right people, within 10 billion people across the world. I'm using the internet. I am sending out a message. I am assembling the Avengers. Okay, if you want to be a hero, if you want to be a leader, if you want to establish a kingdom, if you understand what it is that I'm trying to do here, okay, many people will look at this, many people will be confused, many people will be scared about our ambition, about what we are trying to achieve here. But if you are excited, if you are intrigued, if you want to take part, then reach out to me. Let's see if we can work together.
The second assumption is that great men rise only when a unique set of circumstances plays out. They don't emerge in a vacuum.
Yeah, and this is the correct circumstances for you to come forth. This is the right time for it to happen. Why? Because we are only a few years away from eternal lockdowns, from eternal techno feudalism, from eternal influenced by the state. They want you locked up. All you gotta do is go onto the World Economic Forum's website, and they will tell you about Agenda 2030, where you will own nothing and be happy, where you will be stuck inside your house, inside a 15-minute city, where they will tell you how much meat to consume, how much you are allowed to travel, how much you're allowed to even heat your own house. Okay, they want total control of you. They want to track every penny that you're spending, what you're spending it on. And if you speak out against the current regime, they will dox you. They will dock you points, fines straight out of your account. They will block your accounts in many instances until you play along and get back in line with what their agenda is that they're trying to push. Okay, before that happens, this is your window of opportunity to get out. This is the time for you to become a great man, take part in history, become the person who writes history. Okay, people will be writing great sonnets, people will be writing plays, making films, making art about your heroics. But it comes down to you. If you have that choice within you, if you have the desire to go forth and become something greater than yourself, if you want to become the hero in your journey, then this is the moment now.
Though every aspect of history isn't dependent on great men, heroes are the decisive factor in solving the problems of societies. They're the weight that tips the scale one way or another. Carlyle's heroes are utterly unique and possess a certain creative genius that can't be made up for with any amount of raw manpower. How many Roman legions are the equivalent to a Julius Caesar? How many minor poets will give us a Shakespeare? The hero is unquantifiable. Carlyle's hero is somewhat similar to Aristotle's conception of the magnanimous or great-souled man. The great-souled man is a man who possesses archetypal human virtue in the active sense, meaning he acts upon the world as opposed to having a more contemplative nature. The magnanimous man is a person of action. In Carlyle's conception, the hero isn't perfect, though. The world is filled with contradictions that the hero has to deal with. Thus, all heroes will be flawed. And it's precisely because they aren't perfect that they can serve as a pattern for others to imitate. This imitation is the force that moves history forward. For example, Alexander the Great and his phalanxes set the template for ancient warfare. It would be hundreds of years before his methods were defeated. Likewise, Napoleon used artillery in an overwhelming fashion, which no one had ever done before.
Yeah, they were using the technology of the time, they were using the strategies of the time, and the strategy to use in this current climate, in this current economy, in this time in history is the internet. We can, while we have the time to send our messages out there, we can garner followings, we can build legacies on the internet, we can reach out and communicate to one another. And that is what I'm doing here. I have all the time people reaching out to me, wanting to work with me, wanting to discuss how we can build kingdoms, how we can establish ourselves as kings. And if that is something that you want to do, if you have similar beliefs to me, if you have similar values as me, if you are somebody who is sick and tired of the tyranny that the elites are establishing, and the tyranny and the crises that are coming towards us, we need to be ready. We need to prepare ourselves for battle and war. If you want somebody to fight alongside you, if you want to fight alongside me, reach out to me. Let's see if we are aligned in our missions. If there is something I can help you with, I will try my best. If you can offer any help towards me, then we can work together and build an alliance to overthrow the current regime.
Future generals took note and copied his tactics. But Carlyle's heroes aren't just military or political figures. He identified 6 types of hero, encompassing all facets of human life. There is the divine hero, like Odin, the prophet, like Muhammad, the poet, like Shakespeare, the priest, like Martin Luther, the man of letters, like Rousseau.
We are the prophets, we are the gods, we are everything rolled into one, okay? There is no time to worry about what role you might play if you do not know what role it is that you are good at, okay? Sometimes in life, you just have to throw yourself out there. You have to put yourself into a situation where you might sink or swim. However, we here at Raw Instinct, we have life rafts, we have these ships to keep us afloat, to make sure that we are always swimming, that we are always winning, riding the waves, riding the tides. We cannot be destroyed. We cannot be defeated. Okay, we are undefeatable. If you want to have that power, if you want to be able to bring about that inner strength from within you, if you want to eliminate all these self-doubts that are holding you back, okay, because the fears and self-doubts that you have, right, that is the only thing that's stopping you from executing and unleashing your full potential. And that is what I work with my clients with. If you want to be a part of that, let me know. But once you are somebody who can on command release your full power from within, your ambition, your charisma, all onto your your kingdom, onto the people who are living within you, inside your castle walls, they will be ready to worship you. They will be ready to follow you into battle. If that is something that you want to take a part in, let me know.
And the king, like Napoleon. Thus, there is a hero for every interest one can have. And this is where it gets personal, because Carlyle believed that who our heroes are shapes us. Carlyle posited that the study of heroes was beneficial to one's character. By examining the lives of great men, we can develop courage, vision, and unique insights into our own nature. Studying heroes will make us a little more heroic.
Okay, let's jump into Keir Starmer and his cringy social media campaign and what we shouldn't do if we are trying to establish our kingdoms, okay?
No longer are politicians expected to make their case to the electorate simply in a television debate or from a catchy billboard. They're expected to play the game of social media. While some British politicians are particularly good at this, like for instance Nigel Farage and Zach Balansky, Prime Minister Keir Starmer really isn't, and appears either uninterested or unable to develop a workable social media strategy.
The problem is that Keir Starmer is trying to be somebody he is not. He is trying to portray something sanitized, something that is not real. Okay, he is trying to portray a clean version, easily palatable version of himself. Whereas I'm saying is you need to expose all your flaws. You need to let yourself be who you really are. Let the world see you, right? Don't give two shits about anyone judging you. Don't give two shits about anybody having any type of judgment towards you, right? Because we are here to find the people who accept us for who we are, who see the divinity, the royal lineage that is coming through us. And if you want to be somebody who is not controlled by anyone else, when you have that total freedom, when you are somebody who is living and expressing their royal instinct, then you cannot be stopped. And that is something that Keir Starmer is lacking, which is why he appears to be cringe, because he cares too much, because he is not being himself.
So with this in mind, in this video, we're going to go through some broad rules that politicians should follow on social media, explain why Starmer seems to be breaking them, and have a quick look at how Starmer could address the issue. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the politicians should follow on social media to make their social media strategy actually succeed. Now, we should say off the bat that despite our millions of subscribers, we're not social media experts, and the rules aren't designed to be exhaustive or even necessarily designed to be followed to the letter. They're just...
Yeah, and remember, if you are somebody who is making any social media content, sometimes rules are there to be broken, okay? Like your thumbnails do not have to follow a Mr. Beast script. You do not have to be somebody who is, trying to be like anybody else. Be yourself, right? And the right people will come and meet you wherever you are, okay? I am a true believer of things happen for a reason. I am a true believer of... you forging your own destiny, and we here at Raw Instinct, we just do as we please, we do as we think is fit, and the right outcomes will soon follow because it is our destiny to succeed.
Broad observations of what has worked for other politicians and why Starmer diverging from this hasn't worked out for him. If there's anything you think we've got wrong or you think we should have included, let us know in the comments. Caveats aside though, let's get into it. Rule 1, stick on message. This is one of the most important rules of social media. A good case in point is Zohran Mamdani, who used social media remarkably effectively in his campaign for New York mayor. But Mamdani's messaging was only effective because it was consistent and his platform was understandable. He'd make New York more affordable. This was all complemented by a good social media strategy that sold this vision. In other words, social media is a tool for politicians to sell their message. Without a message, it's just a vanity project. Now, we're not saying...
The message here at Raw Instinct that we are spreading is we are expressing ourselves and positioning ourselves as subject matter experts. We are here to show the world what our opinions are, which is why it can be controversial, which is why you may even receive hate online. Every day somebody sends me a nasty message, but for every nasty message I get, I also get one lovely message in return. The more polarizing you are, the more you can alienate the wrong people, the more likely you are to find the correct people in your life. And that is the strategy that we are using here at Raw Instinct. We are being ourselves. We are being naturally stating our opinions, and if it offends anybody, then they can go fuck themselves, because we do not want them around here. We do not want them around in our kingdoms. When shit hits the fan, when we are all under global tyranny, me and you and the people here at Raw Instincts, the King Alliance that we are building, the Amicis that we are gathering together, we will be off on the private islands. We will have our own secret bunkers, and we will be protected by our castle walls, okay? And that is something that you need to think about. You need to get ready for the oncoming assault that is going to happen.
Saying that Starmer has it easy. Other politicians can lean on their anti-establishment credentials and make this their central message. One of the reasons that, for instance, Zach Polanski is so successful is because his socialist, hopeful, anti-government message is easy to sell on social media. Similarly, Nigel Farage's brand of right-wing populism and particular focus on immigration gives him a clean, simple-to-explain message. But even if it's harder to use social media as an incumbent, Starmer is further hamstrung by the fact that, well, he doesn't really seem to have a coherent message. This is shown by the fact that, as Prime Minister, his government has presented a number of different priorities to the electorate, including 3 foundations, 5 missions, and 6 steps for change. Other governments have had a simple message that they returned back to. Think of David Cameron's relentless focus on the economy and reducing the deficit, or Boris Johnson's Get Brexit Done. These simple themes provide a good starting point for a social media.
Yeah, because the masses don't know how to think, so they need to be told a simple message in order to get mass appeal, right? But we are not going for mass appeal here. We are going for the quality, the intelligent people who understand what it is we are trying to establish. If people don't understand what it is that we're trying to do, they are simply just too stupid. And you need to realize that most people are too stupid to recognize the true king that you are. However, here at Raw Instinct, we are turning our weaknesses into strengths. We are becoming the people who are seen as subject matter experts. We are seen as points of authority. And because we are points of authority, it is naturally for us to establish kingdoms.
Media strategy. In short, Starmer's lack of a clear central theme makes his work on social media just that bit harder. Rule 2. Avoid gimmicks. There's a temptation for politicians to assume that people on social media are younger and that they need to jump on social media trends in order to stay relevant. Generally speaking, this isn't true.
Yes, we are not here jumping on any gimmicks. We are not making any gimmicks. We are just naturally being ourselves. And the right people will naturally want to follow you because they get the messaging that you are providing. It is wrong to try and appease people. It is wrong to try and be liked, okay? Because it can only go wrong, right? A king doesn't care. A lion doesn't, give a shit about the opinions of sheep, right? And a king doesn't, give a shit about the opinions of non-kings, right? Of the peasants in its vicinity, in its kingdom, right? And that is the stance I want you to have. I want you to stop giving a shit about people's opinions. I want you to put your opinions first and let the chips fall where they may, okay? And from there, we are able to reposition ourselves as the people in charge because we are the ones who have true opinions and not trying to appease the masses. Let's jump into the Diary of a CEO video.
Anyways.
Brack. Angry.
Problem stamina.
Bad. Nope. Extinction.
Diary of a CEO is a weird show. The thumbnails are often pretty trashy. They're lying. They want us to be sick. If a nuke drops,
it is all about rage bait. He tries to piss you off. He tries to manipulate you into clicking into his video. Why does he do that? Because he wants the views. He wants to make as much money as possible in order for when that shit does hit the fan, he has enough money to isolate himself, to insulate himself from any potential nuclear fallout.
Here's what happens. A lemon will fix your erections. But the interviews are actually very sophisticated, even life-changing. The topics are all over the place. Financial advice, societal collapse, foot health, sugar consumption, celebrities. But they consistently bring in millions of views, not just once a week, but twice a week. To get over 14 million subscribers and 1 billion views on YouTube alone, Diary of a CEO has to be doing a lot of things right.
So many people copy our thumbnails now, for example, because they think that must be it. So many people copy the trailers, they think that must be it, but it's not that.
The question is, what is it then? For the last month, I went down a rabbit hole to try to answer that question and break down the invisible machine behind the show. And what I discovered is that what makes this podcast one of the best in the world isn't what you see.
He is trying to make a viral show. He is. I even watched a video of himself discussing his show, and he has a button under his desk which he presses, which basically marks a point in the show and alerts his assistants to basically make sure that this moment is clipped, because he believes that that is a viral moment. So he sets up his questions in order for him to get a viral moment on his podcast. He'll then clip it onto TikTok and onto YouTube Shorts on Instagram, and that drives traffic onto his main pod. And that is what makes him generate revenue. That is what makes him make a lot of money.
It's what you don't. A lot of people think Diary of a CEO succeeded because Stephen Bartlett was rich and he was famous. Because, I mean, he was rich, and he was pretty famous.
Founder of a marketing empire that's become one of the world's most influential social media.
Justice Reform podcast this week.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have joined forces with Spotify.
Addison Rae just launched a podcast exclusively on Spotify.
Former President Barack Obama teaming up with one of America's biggest rock stars.
Everybody tried to copy the Joe Rogan format. Everybody tried to copy, to have their own podcast because they thought that is a great way to make money. However, they do not understand that it is viral moments that gain traction online. You have to be controversial in order to make it big.
For a new podcast.
From 2018 to 2021, Spotify bet the farm on the idea that famous people equals successful podcasters. They poured hundreds of millions.
You have to realize most famous people are boring as shit. Most famous people are not being really themselves. They are playing characters. Okay, a lot of the time, you might see a famous movie star and you think they must be so interesting, but in reality, they have no personality, because the reason that they are able to be such great actors is because they can empty their souls, their whole body, of any semblance of their real personality, which they shedded years ago. And now that they are just an empty vessel for them to pick up a script, be told what character to play, and then express their version of that. Okay, the reason why most people aren't good actors is because they are full of their own self-doubt and their own fears, right? But if you was to remove that and remove your personality, and if you're just a hollow vessel, it'll be easy for you to play any character that you wish. Okay, here on Royal Instinct, instead of being an empty vessel, we unify all aspects of you. We put you back together. We allow your most confident version of yourself to shine through, and you will naturally be crowned, because people want to see authenticity.
Millions of dollars into deals with celebrities. But that bet did not pay off.
Harry and Meghan's estimated $25 million podcast deal canceled after less than a year.
The Obama's production company is moving to Audible after a 3-year run with Spotify.
So while being rich and famous helps with everything, it doesn't explain how Stephen was able to rise to the top of the podcast mountain. So I decided to go back to the very beginning, to the fall of 2017, when Stephen records his first ever podcast. The first 5 episodes weren't really the show you hear today.
Every Sunday, I'm going to share my personal diary with you, and I want to give you an insight into what it's like behind the scenes, being an entrepreneur.
But that didn't last long. Around episode 6, Stephen started interviewing people. And so I went back and I actually listened to those early stripped-down episodes, before he had the fancy gear and famous guests and huge team. And what I found surprised me, because even back then, Stephen was actually a pretty good interviewer. He didn't commit any of the usual mistakes that beginners make, like talking too much about himself or asking questions just to sound smart. But there was one thing that he got way better at. First, though, let's look at what kind of interviewer Stephen actually is. Roughly speaking, there are 3 types of interviewers.
Hey there. Welcome to Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard.
Yeah.
The friend interviewer puts their guests at ease, and it feels like a hangout. Then you have the second type.
Bradley Pitts, thanks for joining me.
It's my pleasure.
I'm quite picky, so I wouldn't have asked you if I wasn't in love with you.
Here we are at Neptune Records, waiting for Tyler, the Creator.
The weirdo interviewer cuts through the usual boring celebrity talking points. It's hard to act normal when the person interviewing you isn't normal. In both cases, the interviewer is part of the show. The friend talks a lot. Joe Rogan will jump in with,
I don't remember what happened, but she started throwing punches at me. And I'm like, what the f-?
With the weirdo interviewer, The guest can be almost boring because the interviewer is the entertainment.
I feel like there's quite a fiery energy between us.
No, don't get.
But Stephen Bartlett doesn't belong to either category. He falls into a third type, part of a long tradition of interviewers like Larry King or James Lipton, the invisible interviewer.
Instead of being invisible, instead of being the friend, and instead of being the weirdo clown, I want you to be the king interviewer. I want you to be the person when people meet you, when people speak to you, that they are naturally give you your full attention that you deserve. I want you to walk into any room and allow people to see you for who you really are and give you the best treatment. Okay, that is what we deserve here at Raw Instinct. That is what I want from me and my friends, the Amichis that I'm building, the King's Alliance that I'm building. If you want to take a part of it, let me know.
How did that happen? Why do they hang around?
Okay, that's a pretty good question. I guess
when the spaceship lands, how do they communicate?
That's a very good question. I like that.
This type of interviewer is a magic trick. When it's done really well, all you see is the guest. Under the surface, though, there's a lot going on. So let's get into that. When you listen to Stephen's interviews with celebrities these days, his opening is almost always the same.
Louis, to understand you, what is the earliest context that I need? Trevor, what are the most important things that I need to understand about your earliest years? For you to be the way that you are, there must be some kind of early context.
So this doesn't seem that remarkable. It's a pretty obvious starting point. But look at how he used to ask this question. This is the transcript from one of Stephen's early interviews before he was even on YouTube. Look at how long it takes him to ask the first question.
Tom, thank you so much for inviting us into your amazing home. Your content as well is hugely inspiring. I was talking about inspiration and knowledge. So my question, I guess, where did you come from?
It takes him 44 seconds just to get that question out. Now it only takes him 5 seconds. But that's not the only difference. If you ever listen to some of the great invisible interviewers, it's not just how tight their questions are, it's also the focus. Remember the question Stephen asked?
Where did you come from?
Listen to how confused his guest is by that question.
Where did I come from? Well, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington. So...
Respectfully, nobody cares about that. And so Stephen changed the question so that it nudges people into a more interesting answer. What do I need to know about your earliest context to understand you now?
He is trying to manipulate them. He is trying to push them into a way that they provide a viral moment where they get to share insight about their lives in order to gain something interesting out of you. Here at Raw Instinct, we are the interesting point of our lives. We are always creating interesting comments because we live interesting lives. We build interesting narratives, okay? It's all about controlling the narrative, controlling the perception, and here at Raw Instinct, we master it. And that is why we are seen as kings.
Carlyle was far from the only historian to make this point. Long before him in the 2nd century, Plutarch wrote his seminal work, Parallel Lives, where he examined 23 great figures throughout history for exactly the same reasons. Plutarch dissected leaders like Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Alcibiades, and Cicero, analyzing their lives in an attempt to answer what made these figures so influential. Thus, readers could copy their virtues and avoid their vices. His work is essentially a prototype of great man theory. And around the same time, Suetonius wrote the 12 Caesars, an examination of the first emperors of Rome. Suetonius and Plutarch, like Carlyle, understood history as the biographies of great men. Likewise, everyone's favorite political philosopher, Niccolo Machiavelli, showed that learning from the great men of history need not be a merely academic pursuit, but could have practical, real-world applications. He himself claimed that there was nothing more precious to him than the knowledge of the great men he gained by studying history. Machiavelli emphasized that rulers should read accounts of the great men so as to imitate their accomplishments and avoid their failures. He writes, "Another thing a ruler must do to exercise his mind is read history, in particular accounts of great leaders."
It's not just about reading history or learning from people's past mistakes. It is about, embodying the hero that you're trying to emulate, okay, so that you become the hero, right? Like when Julius, when Caesar was reading about Alexander the Great, he didn't see oh, okay, to be like Alexander the Great, I need to do XYZ. It was more like he saw himself as Alexander in today's time, right? When Napoleon read about, Caesar, who he was trying to emulate, he didn't think how to emulate him. He was thinking, right, how would he act? Let me act out as if Julius Caesar was in control right now of my body. He kind of became Julius Caesar in his own mind, right? Because for him, right, like being Julius Caesar, being Alexander the Great, being Napoleon, it's almost you're greater than human, right? You are a god in an essence at that point, right? And he embodies the spirit of that person and then brings about that energy into his work, into his life, into his actions, right? And that is, he truly sees himself as a Caesar, as a king, right? Napoleon, which is why he's able to express himself like that, act with utter confidence, because in his head, it isn't like oh no, people are going to worry and see me as they're going to make fun of me and say that I'm being silly because I'm acting like Julius Caesar. No, he refers to himself as Napoleon, but inside his head, he's acting like a Caesar, right? And then when you have that utter belief in it, then people will follow, because people's brains aren't there to question him. He has these symbols of power, and it is easy for him to be seen as a king, as a Caesar, as an emperor at that point, okay? And that is what I want you to do. I want you to establish the knowledge that you have, be seen as a subject matter expert, and then from there on, it is easy for you to be seen as a king, as an emperor, because you have all the markers of power.
And their achievements. He should look at their wartime strategies and study the reasons for their victories and defeats so as to avoid their failures and imitate the successes. Above all, he must do what some great men have done in the past. Take as model a leader who's been much praised and admired, and keep his example and achievements in mind at all times. Machiavelli noted that most people act via imitation, but can never actually tread in another's path exactly. He thus advised to follow a trail blazed by someone who is truly great, someone worth imitating, so that if you don't reach the same level, at least you'll be a little higher than before. So many of the great men and women of history took this exact approach, and in turn they themselves became great. But it's likely you were never taught the great man approach to history when you were in school. Chances are you were taught a different lens of.
Let's see what road he's going down and see what the strategies are to become a great man, and then we'll go back to Keir Starmer and see where he is going wrong.
History. One that, instead of highlighting the great men and women who shaped our civilization, often downplays their accomplishments. Carlyle's view was top-down, but a competing theory, a history from below, is more popular with educators today. English philosopher Herbert Spencer was one of the first men to criticize Carlyle, believing that social conditions were more influential than individual heroes. Heroes were merely products of their social environment. Spencer writes, "Before the great man can remake his society must make him." Spencer's ideas went on to form the basis of what's now called social history, which focuses less on the elites of society and more on the common people. You might have read Howard Zinn's highly controversial, and I might argue problematic, A People's History of the United States, which is a prime example of this historical lens. These narratives often describe social movements as stemming from the ground up, while popular leaders are seen as reactionary to the pleas of the people. Leaders aren't inherently special, but rather stand-ins for any other figure that could have served as the figurehead of that movement. Moreover, in social history, the great men and women of history are often seen as oppressors rather than inspiring individuals. They got to the top not by being worthy of the role, but by being more cunning or ruthless than everyone else. In my opinion, it's a depressing view of history because it gives us no one to aspire to be. The great man theory gives us examples to strive for, but social history gives us...
Yeah, most people look around their vicinity, most people look around their communities, and they cannot find any inspiration. They cannot find any people to emulate who were good. You might not have had somebody who was a great role model. You might not be around the types of people that want the best for you. Your friends might want you to fail. Your friends might want to keep you small in order for them to feel comfortable, because they themselves do not want to grow. Here at Royal Instinct, we surround ourselves with other kings so that we only have a royal outcome, so that we are in alignment with our royal powers, so that we can prepare and build castles, so that we can prepare and build our kingdoms, so we can prepare when war comes, when we are in the heat of battle against the evil tyranny, with the AI apocalypse coming, with the World Economic Forum locking us down, with the elites robbing us blind via inflation. We are coming up with new solutions, creative ideas. Okay, we are preparing to take over the world. If you want to be a part of that, if it is in your life's purpose to live a great life, to be seen as a king, then let's work together.
The belief that great men and women need to be knocked off their pedestal. But this leads me to a caveat of great man theory. Though Carlyle often spoke of the great man in almost religious terms, calling him the light which has enlightened the darkness of the world, I suggest that we look toward the great men of history not because they are all necessarily good men or worthy of emulation in every aspect, but because they have some quality that made them an impactful person that shaped our civilization. It is these impactful qualities that we should look for and emulate, not necessarily the ends that they were used for. A man can be a great orator and use it for a devious purpose. That does not mean we should strive to be devious. Rather, we should strive to become a great speaker and use it for good. Likewise, many political and logistical geniuses.
Yeah, that's an important point. There is a lot of these people are using tools of manipulation, tools of to manipulate the masses in order for them to gain power. However, the people who are in power, they aren't the ones who have your best interest. Okay, only you have your best interest, right? That is why good people need to be in power. Good people need to become the heroes that the world needs. Good people should be the leaders and in charge of the decisions that are being made for the people, by the people, and for a future where people are at the front and center, instead of what the elites are trying to do at the moment with OpenAI. Sam Altman, he is getting ready to worship AI. He is implementing a system where humanity will be serving AI, praying to it, worshiping it as a god. And that is a world that I do not want to be a part of. That is a world that I do not want to live in, which is why I am leaving the system. I am establishing my own system. And when the rest of the world is worshipping AI and allowing AI to make its decisions, me and the other kings here at Royal Instinct will be insulated, isolated, away from all those idiots, in essence, who chose not to follow us. However, we will make an attack. We will take over and offer the people a new reality, a new world to live in, a new system to live under. And we will be doing it because we have good intentions, because it is our time to rule.
Had questionable motives. We should learn from their tactics and emulate their technical skill sets, but use it to lift up others. And that is what the great men should be for us. They teach us something deep about human nature or mastery over a craft. They are not perfect, just as we will never be, but we receive something by learning from them. Carlyle says it best. We cannot look, however imperfectly, upon a great man without gaining something by him.
Yeah, so basically, the great man are inspired by other great men from history. Okay, and when you look at what Keir Starmer is doing, he is not inspiration at all. He is a person that is causing the opposite of inspiration. Okay, which is why his message is confusing, which is why he is not able to express himself clearly, which is why he is appearing cringe online. Let's jump back into Keir Starmer.
Way of thinking that leaves politicians looking cringy. Take a look at Ed Miliband here.
How do you feel about your leaders doing social media, TikTok trends, trying to appear cool, trying to fit in with the general populace, right? No, the leader should be smarter than you. They should be better than you. They should be, have real insight and ideas and courage to go forth, to make the country better, to make society better. Instead, they are too busy trying to be like, oh, look, I'm also cool like you. I understand what it is like to be a 14-year-old girl making TikTok fucking videos. No, it is the wrong strategy, which is why these people are seen as idiots.
Or even Rishi Sunak here.
Yeah, I mean, do you get what I mean? Just come out and fucking say it. Don't try to be all cool. Don't try to be like, oh yeah, look, I'm cool as well online. It is a stupid tactic.
Now, on occasion, this can work if it seems that you're in on the joke. Ed Davey's social media campaign in the run-up to the 2024 general election is a good example of this, and he was helped by the fact that he ruthlessly linked his stunts back to his arguments on adult social care. But it's generally quite hard to do, and it's worth noting that Davey wasn't really shoehorning his way into existing trends.
It's different, right? Because like the three examples there, the water rafting, the water slide and the bungee jump, right? Like they're actually, he's taking a fucking risk there, right? Like he's actually doing an activity that he is enjoying, that he's having fun with. So people can relate, right? They like to see other people experiencing something, enjoying themselves, and being a real human being. But if you're pretending to be a fucking TikToker, right? If you're pretending to, oh, I'm going to pour milk into this coffee so the 900 pound sign fucking appears. If you're doing a TikTok trend where you're pretending to be on a fashion runway, it's fake. You're pretending to be something, whereas the other guy, right, he is actually enjoying an activity for himself.
Rather, he was just doing fun stunts, which was sort of consistent with his chill dad vibes. Generally speaking, it's better to stick with content that's consistent with your brand. The Tories generally have been pretty good at this. Their videos, particularly on Instagram, are well produced and designed for an older audience, which is the core Conservative demographic. Labour, on the other hand...
Yeah, like, I mean, a lot of politicians sometimes think that, oh, let's make like TikTok videos, let's make social media videos, or let's jump on the social media trend in order to gain young voters, right? But there's like that is not your demographic. Your demographic is, you should know who your demographic is, and your demographic should be already watching you. Okay, most of the time you're not able to gain new subscribers, you're not able to get new followers. What you have to do is you have to present a alternate reality for them where they jump on your trend, right? Whereas they're not jumping on you because they've never experienced you. They're jumping on you because your idea or your version of the future is better, right? And if you're pretending or pandering to an audience, they can see straight through that, okay? Because you're then not really offering anything better. You're just trying to be relatable and then hoping that they follow you, right? Whereas if you just come out and be like, yep, if you go down the current path, it's going to be like this. However, if you follow me, life's going to be like this, okay? Which is what I'm doing here, right? I'm saying if you continue to live your life how you're living it now, 3-4 years from now, you'll be regretting it. You'll be hoping that you jumped in on this trend that I'm creating. However, the people who understand what it is that I'm doing, they'll naturally they're already thinking about doing it. They already see themselves as kings. They want to become kings. They want to do some superhero shit, okay? Like they already have these feelings inside them, and then they're like, right, this is now the moment where I decide whether I really do it or just dream about it, okay? So don't fall for this shit that these people are doing. They are all frauds.
They're a bit all over the place. Have a look at some of these videos, for instance.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is...
Thank you for paying. It's so bad.
I'm just pausing it because in case it gets copyright stricken.
Weird. They're not consistent with the Labour brand, or more specifically Starmer's personal brand, which makes them feel almost uncanny. Is a fan cam of Starmer walking out of number 10, for instance, really changing anyone's opinion on him as leader? Will these videos break out and...
Yeah, you already think he's an idiot, or you already think he's great, okay? Like you're not now going to think, oh, wow, now he's cool, right? So their image that they're trying to portray, the way that they are trying to curate the image, is the wrong way to go about it.
Bringing in a new audience for the government? Probably not. Rule 3, be authentic and original. Now, we know that this is a little bit of a fluffy and unspecific rule. What we mean by this is that politicians should actually believe in the posts that they're putting out. People can spot in...
Yeah, so it's all about being authentic. It's all about being consistent and congruent with your messaging, with who you are trying to portray. Don't do nothing fake. Don't do anything to make anyone like you. Allow the people who naturally want to follow you, who will naturally be aligned with you, to come into your life. And the way we do that here on Raw Instinct, we send out our bat signals. We allow people to reach out to us, and we decide whether they can join us or not. And here on Raw Instinct, every day, people are reaching out to me to ask if they can join, if they can bring expertise into our group that we're building here. And I encourage you to become a king. I encourage you to build a kingdom. And together, once we are all establishing our kingdoms, we will be at the top, living lives of luxury. We will be living the best lives, and we will become the de facto rulers of the earth. Let's jump straight back into the Diary of a CEO.
All right, so the questions got tighter, they got better, but there's another key to the invisible interviewer.
Research, 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 research. Study, 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 study.
Research has always been a huge part of any interview. The more you know about a person, the more interesting answers you get. Even Joe Rogan, who is probably one of the chillest interviewers, still does a lot of research.
If I have an important subject and I don't understand it too much, I'll read someone's book, watch documentary. I love things like the UFO subjects because I don't have to do any preparation.
But the king of research has to be
Guns Garcia.
Yo, he know too much.
Narwhal, how? How the fuck do you know that?
Wow. How the fuck do you know about...
Yeah, how do you know?
You got a hell of a research, bro.
So let's look at how Diary of a CEO does their research. One way to understand what makes the show special.
How do you know what to research? What should you be looking into? It should be your natural curiosity. It should be your natural things that you find interesting, okay? Because once you are following your natural path that you find interesting, what you find purposeful, what you find to be of interest, it will become easy for you to do a deep dive, to keep digging for answers, keep digging for different insights into different pieces of knowledge, and then your brain will put together different pieces of ideas together, which will bring about new insight for the world, for the people who follow you, which is why you will be seen as a genius, which is why you will become a subject matter expert, because only you who are in your life purpose will be able to bring about this new knowledge, newfound glory for the earth, for the world. And once you have a position like that, then it is easy for you to turn yourself into a king. You will live life of luxury. You'll be seen as a point of authority, and it is appealing to women. It is appealing to all people. People would want to be part of your vicinity. People would want to be your friend.
Is to listen to other interviews their guests did. Take this mafia boss. He'd been interviewed dozens of times before he went on Diary of a CEO. His most popular interview was probably this one on BuzzFeed. And the most viral moment in that video?
Never have I ever killed someone.
Oh, boy.
It was the most watched, most commented on, but the answer he gives is honestly pretty lame and generic.
I will tell you this, that life is a very violent life. Murder in that life was taken very seriously.
I'm pretty sure we all know that murder is taken seriously in mob life. I mean, I've seen movies. So people were interested in the topic, but the interview didn't really deliver. And so when Steven interviews him, he makes sure to ask him 3 probing questions just to try to get him to talk as much as possible about that moment that he knows people are interested in.
You've never talked about having to kill someone, have you?
No.
Why is that?
It's just not a subject I care to get into. You
know? When I read that, I thought maybe it's because might be legal retribution, but I wondered why.
It's honestly totally worth watching. I mean, at one point he says,
I don't have immunity for anything that I've done in the past.
I'm just going to say, that definitely means he didn't not do it. So that's one way that Diary of a CEO makes sure their guest gives interesting answers, by watching the other interviews and mining them for greatest hits.
I was thinking...
He is able to see blind spots that other people cannot see, which is why he's able to ask the right questions in order to get the right response, right? And that is because he genuinely probably finds it interesting. He is trying to create a product that is better than his competition. He's trying to be a better interviewer, a better podcast than everybody else. And that incentive with that added purpose, is easy for him to do the research, and that way he's able to come up with these great questions, which is why he's able to connect different parts of things that other interviewers cannot see.
Thinking about Lewis Howes, and you had a conversation with him. It's something that I've heard you talk about before. I've heard you say before that the most important the things I heard you talk about are
Yeah, things I heard you talk about before. So he's already watched all the previous interviews that person has done, all the other things he's already said, and then trying to find a new angle so it doesn't become a generic podcast like all the other ones before.
This sort of,
And that's the second technique Stephen uses as the invisible interviewer. I kind of think of it as the rock concert technique, because he's basically figuring out what the guest's greatest hits are and then structuring the interview so they can play those answers. But even the best answers don't matter.
Yeah, he's doing it because he basically looks at, say if a guest has done like 5 interviews beforehand, right? And he will find out what the viral moments of each interview is, and then structure his whole podcast around those viral talking points and try to recreate his own viral moments based off that. Okay, it comes from great research. It comes from being able to see what others can't see, which is why he is successful. Okay, and that is what I want for you. That is how I want you to become a king. I want you to find something that you're passionate about, something that you're interested in, become a subject matter expert, find the blind spots, find the insights that other people cannot see, that are only true to you, that only you can bring about because you find it genuinely interesting. And that way you will be bringing fresh ideas, and people will be mesmerized by you. People will be interested in you. People will see you as a point of authority, and from there you can easily make a shitload of money. You'll be seen as attractive to women because you are in your zone of genius, and it would be natural for you to crown yourself king, establish a kingdom, work with us here at Royal Instincts with the Amicis, building our alliance of kings. And when the wars come, it will be us standing side by side alongside each other, ready to do battle, ready to fight the evil tyranny that the world will be bestowed under. If you understand what it is that I'm doing, if you understand what it is that I'm saying, then reach out to me. Let's see if we are aligned, and let's see if we can work together. But that is it for today. Thank you very much, and